She was a surgeon. For 10 years, her hands held the line between life and death, and she trusted them. But inside her own marriage, every instinct she'd ever built was methodically dismantled. Gaslighting doesn't announce itself. It seeps in through the cracks of your confidence until you can't trust your own eyes, your own memory, and your own mind. Today, I'm with Dr. Lisa Dawn Fox. She's the founder of Shadow and Soul Recovery and a master certified professional coach who walked out of that fog and built an entire practice on 3 words: I believe you. Because here's the truth: most people miss understanding that what's happening isn't because of you, it's happening to you. It's just healing. It's just healing. It's armor. It's today we're suiting up. Welcome back. Welcome to Divorcing Strong, the podcast that pulls no punches when it comes to divorce. I'm Becky Sampson, better known as Bulldog Becky Brockovich, and I'm here to give you the straight talk, the strategies, and the subpoena secrets you won't hear anywhere else. With expert guests and proven advice, you'll learn your rights, your options, and gain your power that encourages a fair and equitable outcome. Divorce doesn't have to break you. It can build you. Let's get to it. Wow. Well, welcome everybody to another episode of Divorcing Strong podcast. My name is Becky Sampson. I'm the host. Man, it's been like I've taken like 5 or 6 weeks off of the Divorcing Strong podcast, mainly because I did a live online live event with another business partner. And our guest today came to our event. She's amazing. And when I met her, I thought, oh my gosh, we need to have you on this podcast, because it is when we're talking about abuse, especially when it's in a relationship, long-term relationship, it's important to know how to connect those dots to know, am I in an abusive relationship? Am I really crazy as this person is making me sound like I'm crazy? I remember being in my own relationship going, seriously, do I need to be hospitalized? Like, what is going on with me? And until I started to make connecting the dots to be able to saying, oh, wait, this is very, very little to do with me. And so if that's you and you're listening, you're in a relationship that might be making you feel crazy or feel like you are going crazy, you definitely want to stay tuned today. Also, I just want to remind those of you, if you are going through a divorce or you know someone that's going through a divorce, make sure that you, right here, I think that this is where it is, but there's a free download. The reason why I provided this free download is because it's 100 divorce terms. And if you do not know the legal terms when it comes to divorce, I really want you to be educated in knowing how to speak, how to navigate, how to deal with attorneys or the legal system. So please make sure you go download that and educate yourself on the legal terms of divorce, because it's going to help you a lot to navigating through these crazy waters if it's something that you've never done before. So with that, Dr. Lisa Dawn Fox is a former surgeon. She's master certified professional coach with the ICF and founder of Shadow and Soul Recovery, where she helps women recover from coercive control, emotional abuse, and the invisible psychological wounds that are so often misunderstood. Her work is trauma-informed, deeply personal, and fiercely validating, especially for women who have spent years second-guessing themselves, minimizing what happened, or trying to explain the unexplainable. And that's one of the things that I think I hear the most is like, seriously, you can't make this stuff up, right? So through her coaching, Dr. Lisa gives women the language, the clarity, the framework they need to recognize patterns like gaslighting, DARVO, pathological entitlement, and manipulation, not so that they can stay stuck in the pain, but so that you can finally understand the truth of what they have lived through. She helps women move from confusion to clarity, from self-blame to self-trust, and from survival mode into a life where their voice, instincts, and identity belong to them again. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Becky. It's really good to see you again.
Yes. And,
Mhm.
I knew when I met you, and I know when we did our first podcast with the podcast, it was Passion to Payday. I know it was such a short podcast, and I was like, okay, we definitely need to have you on longer because I want you to be able to really tell people and help them understand the abuse, which is so common now. It feels like it's common, I should say, within this. But before we kind of run into that, give me the backstory of what got you into doing the work that you're doing right now, and why are you so passionate about serving people out of this abusive relationships?
That's a great question. To be very honest, advocacy is what drives me. It's what
Mhm.
wakes me up in the morning. When I was a diabetic limb salvage and wound treatment surgeon, it was advocating well for my patients,
Right.
to fight for them, to save both of their limbs, to have a great quality of life.
Mm.
When I was working within women's ministries for 15 years, it was really advocating for women and partnering with them as they found out what their own purpose was and
Mm.
helping them launch their own ministries. And now I advocate for women who come out of relationships or still in relationships where many don't actually understand what they've experienced. And it's
Mhm.
very challenging for them to actually find people who understand and abide by their truth. Because when we end up sharing some of the things that are happening with us within our intimate partner relationships, many people just can't understand.
Right.
They think that we must be exaggerating, they think that we must be making it up because the things that we experience are so extreme that unless you've experienced it, and it's what I say about coercive control all the time, it's like, unless you've experienced it, you probably will not see it. But once you see it, you will never unsee it.
I absolutely agree because I remember, and I've said this on the show before, is that people used to being in the coaching world, we hear about a lot of things, right? And people would come to me, Becky, I just divorced a narcissist, and I'm like, whatever. That's such a thrown around word and everything until I actually experienced it, and I was like, wow, this is a real thing, and it took me a while to really kind of see that. So for you, let's kind of back up. Like for you, have you always, the question I came to my mind is, have you always, since you were very young, been interested in advocacy work or like helping the underdog, so to speak?
Yes. When I look back at my story and if I look back on my timeline, I've always been someone who looks out for others.
Yeah.
It's just part of who I am.
Hmm.
In high school, I did the Toys for Tots fundraiser drive at
Mm.
Christmas. In college, I was the pep chairman of my sorority, training up young women to come into the sorority as they were
Right.
approaching the sorority. It's just part of who I am. It's part of my identity.
So what made you go, I mean, obviously you went into the surgery, right? That's a very big career. What made you really transition out of that and now doing more help? I mean, are you specifically working with divorce stuff, or is it just anybody? I mean, is
No,
that kind of
I actually, the women that I work with, and I work 99% with women. I do work with a few men. I go through an extensive interview process
Mhm.
with them to see if they are in a place of them being ready to move from entitlement to empowerment and service.
Right.
But I usually work with women, and women usually will find me or they're referred to me. And if they're referred to me, they're usually referred to me because there's been some type of infidelity within
Mm.
their relationship. And they've been to multiple different sources. They've been to their pastors, they've been to their therapists, they've been to the marriage counselors, they've been to the retreats, and nothing's changing.
Mm.
So either they come to me by referral or they find me by going on and doing a search about narcissistic abuse,
Mhm.
or they've learned a little bit about coercive control or DARVO, but they don't really know what that is. And so some of the women come to me in a lot of confusion because they know something's wrong. They
Right.
just have no idea what is wrong. They know they've tried everything. They know that they have held themselves accountable to do their part in their marriage and have realized that they're not only doing their part, they're doing their partner's part also.
Mm.
And there's no movement and there's no change. And they're seeing that with all of the help they've attempted to get, that what happens is their spouses are checking boxes and kicking cans, and the person that's actually doing the work is her, and
Yeah.
they're actually doing no work, and they're taking everything they learn and using it against their spouse. They're using it against their wife rather than using it to actually do self-reflection and own their own growth and the work that they need to do.
Yeah, that's the thing I was going to ask you is that can you explain to people, because coercive control is a fairly new term. It's kind of like what they're using in the courts now to dealing with someone that has narcissistic behaviors. But can you, from your point of view, what is the definition, or what does coercive control look like on a day-to-day basis?
Okay. Well, first let's talk about labels.
Mm-hmm.
I don't like labels. I don't like diagnoses,
Mm-hmm.
because for me, having a label or a diagnosis doesn't help you. I mean, it gives an explanation, but it actually doesn't help you in your healing. It doesn't help you to understand what's going on and how to move forward. So I don't diagnose. I
Right.
focus on behaviors, and I have my clients focus on patterns of behavior.
Right.
So when we're talking about coercive control is the most insidious form of intimate partner violence that exists.
Mm.
So when we say domestic violence, I don't like using the word violence, because the minute you use the word violence, that intimates that somebody had to lay a hand on you.
Yep.
It's why I like to use domestic abuse. Domestic abuse covers all forms of abuse, and that includes emotional, psychological, spiritual, financial. It can use the kids, the pets. It
Mm-hmm.
can use, there are 12 forms of power and control
Mm-hmm.
that can be utilized within coercive control, and a lot of subcategories also.
Mm-hmm.
So when we talk about individuals being in a domestic abuse relationship, and somebody says, well, did they hit you? No, they didn't hit me. And what most people understand is that when you have spent so many years with an individual who exhibits the pattern of behavior of manipulation, deceit, projection, deception, that all they need to do is to do that long enough, and you're like a frog in the water, and you come to a place where you're going, is it me or is it
Right.
them? And so what ends up happening is we end up responding out of a place of fear that a hand never needs to be laid on us. When
Mm.
somebody has told you long enough that you're not seeing what you're seeing, that it's your childhood trauma, that you have daddy issues, that you're too sensitive, that it was just a joke,
Mm-hmm.
right? All of those things, those are forms of coercive control.
Yeah. I love that you bring up, Lisa, that it doesn't have to be physical. You know, my first marriage was very physical, abuse. However, I always said I'd much rather have you hit me than mess with my mind. And I'm not saying abuse on any level is okay, right? But it is unfortunate that in our society, we tend to think of abuse being physical, and there needs to be some physical scar, which I do have, in order to be able to see that that's abusive. But there is so much more damaging, and it takes years to recover from when somebody has messed with your mind or tried to. I mean, I remember being told that the sky was green. I'm like, no, I swear it's blue. And I'm like, no, it's green. I'm like, no. And back then I had a fighting spirit that I had to be right. You know what I mean? Now it's like, okay, that's fine. You can feel that way. But at the time I was a fighter, you know? And so I fought alongside of that, and also became an abuser to him, which not a lot of women admit to. I now see that that's the case. But I love that you bring up, though, that the whole thing is just abusive, right? And trying to unpackage that. Now, obviously, that probably came from your own personal experience, right?
And and when you're, yes, and when I'm sorry, I was listening to you talking about you being an abuser, and there are a lot of times that women believe that they are the abuser
Right.
because they are acting in kind to who is abusing them.
Mm-hmm.
When you are reacting to being abused and you are implementing behaviors to protect yourself,
Mm-hmm.
that is not being abusive.
Well,
That is reacting. A lot of people will call it reactive abuse. I don't like that term.
mm-hmm.
Basically, what we are doing when we react is we are attempting to level the playing field because there is no other way for us to respond because we have tried every other way to respond to allow a situation to de-escalate. And unless we become bigger because we have no other tools, because that's the only
Mm-hmm.
tool in our toolbox,
Mm-hmm.
we don't know what other tools to use because those of which we've used from our family of origin, our cultural background, our spiritual background tells us that we are to abide by very different rules.
Right. Well, and the thing that comes to my mind is that, and not to, I mean, it's interesting because I remember one time there was a physical altercation, and I called a hotline. Finally, had the wherewithal to call a hotline, and she's like, "It's not your fault." I'm like, "No, no, no, it is my fault. Like, I poked the bear," and which I, looking back now, I did. I poked a lot of bears. You know what I mean? Like, I had to be right, and I had to have him understand it, that I was right. So there was a lot. And at the same time, I remember a really good friend of mine said, "Becky, you first have to admit the abuse that's happening to you before you then are clear on the abuse that you're causing him." So because a lot of times women, I think women in general, will want to take responsibility for all of it. And she
Mhm.
was like, "You're not going to do that. But the person that I was back then, I was a fighter. I mean, I still am a fighter, but it's now I'm like, you know what? That's okay. You can have your own opinion. I don't need to be right anymore." But it is something that I've seen a lot of women blaming themselves for this coercive control,
Mhm.
that is really scary to me, because it's like you've got to be able to at least admit the abuse is happening to you first. You know what I mean? So you can separate that.
Mhm. And that's very challenging. It is very challenging because this is the myth,
Mm,
is that we end up in abusive relationships because we're weak or broken.
mm,
And that is not why we end up in relationships with an abuser. I do not use the words abusive relationship. A lot of people will say it takes two to tango.
mhm,
When you're with an abuser, it does not take two to tango.
mhm.
So I use the word abuser to aptly apply to the individual who is implementing the harmful and hurtful actions upon another.
Right.
Okay, so when we're looking at that, there is a place where we need to make choices. And a lot of us do come out and we have guilt and shame over some
Mhm,
of the choices that we made. And in my line of work, the choices that we made to survive, to save our lives, to do our best to protect our children, those choices are to be honored,
mhm.
not judged and not shamed.
Right.
Yeah.
I love that about, when I read your intro, it was that you create this safe space for them to fall and be validated, right? Because a lot of times we may have people in our lives that don't believe what we're saying, and it's like, I believe you. Like, I do believe you that you're experiencing this, and I want to I deal with the same thing when someone calls me and I hear certain things come out of their mind. I'm like, out of their mouth, and I'm like, I want you to know that you're validated. Like, it's what you're feeling is a true feeling. Let's kind of dive into like, I know that one of the words that we use is DARVA, and what is DARVA, or DARVO, I should say, isn't it?
DARVO.
DARVO.
DARVO. DARVO is an acronym. And it stands for, it's a form of, DARVO is a form of coercive control. It's a form of gaslighting. And DARVO stands for deny, attack, reverse, the victim to offender. So this is how it rolls. Who's texting you on your phone? Oh, it's just work. Somebody from work's texting you at 11 o'clock at night. Why is somebody from work texting you at 11 o'clock at night? Because my work is very important and I have a lot of people that I have to take care of. And so, they know that they can text me at any time, but at 11 o'clock at night, can I see your phone? What? Why do you need to see my phone? Are you that insecure? Why are you that insecure? Are you accusing me of doing something wrong? Are you saying that I'm lying to you? Why would I lie to you about who is texting me? If that's what you think, wow, you are really broken. And this is because of your issues with your dad. You really need to go get some therapy, or you might need to go on some medication. That is a full episode, an experience, an example of DARVO. So deny. Denies what he's actually doing, attacks you, and then turns the entire situation on you so that you're walking backwards on your heels when all you asked was a very reasonable, appropriate question.
Yeah. And I don't think people, do you find that it's hard for the women to recognize that, or how do you get them to that point where you're recognizing that cycle? Because it's when you don't recognize it to recognizing it.
No, because that's part of the big confusion, right? Initially, we can spend 10, 15, 20, 25 years in that vortex. A lot of people will call domestic abuse that it goes through a cycle. I don't believe it's a cycle. I believe it's a vortex. It's just like a tornado. You end up, every once in a while, you end up in the eye of the storm, of the hurricane, and you're sitting there and things seem calm. And then all of a sudden you get ripped right out and you're just getting whipped around. And that is very much the way it feels when you're living in a coercively controlling relationship, where DARVO and gaslighting are two of the main forms of abuse that are being imposed upon you. And that's why we're confused. That's why we're on shifting ground. It's why we never know what to do, because either what we did was too much, or it wasn't enough, or that was great, but if you had just done this too, then it would have been better. And that's where we get into those 2 and 3 hour circular conversations that at the end of it, you go, what happened? We went into this talking about you not being home on time for dinner, and the fact that I felt disrespected because I made family dinner and it got cold and sat for an hour and a half, into me being entitled and putting parameters on your freedom, and that I was gatekeeping you. How did that happen?
Right.
How did that happen?
Yeah.
And we spend years there, and it comes to a place in our relationship, especially when we're saying, no, this is what I see. And they're telling you, I'm sorry, but that is not what's happening. That is how we end up in cognitive dissonance. Because there comes a time where we either have to say, I'm going to trust my gut and my knowing, or am I going to trust the individual who says that they love me and are providing for me and protecting me and would never do anything to harm me? And they're all that in a bag of chips. And I'm the broken one, because that's what they've told us from the time they start dating us, hurting us. In one way or another, they're letting us know that we are less than, that we're pretty lucky to be dating them.
Yes.
And that their family is of much more influence than our family is, and that we're a broken bird. And so when we go into that and we marry an individual, the whole scene is set up. It doesn't start when we get married. It starts from the first date.
So let's talk about that, because I would love, I know we briefly talked about it before we started the show, but what makes people, because this was a huge aha for me, but what makes people an easy target for these type of people who are abusive? Because it's oftentimes it's because people often think that, hey, it's because I'm weak, or there's something wrong with me, or I'm broken, because that's what they've convinced you. But what are some of the symptoms that they look for, or not symptoms, I should say, but characteristics in women? Well, because we're going to talk about that make us an easy target.
Abusers target and I say that, and I know that a lot of your viewers are going to sit back and go, target?
Yeah.
And it's very uncomfortable to hear, but it's the truth. And even before all the social media, the person that you ended up with that was abusing you, they targeted you. They studied you.
Yep.
They were probably stalking you before they ever made contact with you. And I know this because I study abusers and I know their playbook. And they may be a different individual, but they all basically follow the same playbook. There are different nuances. And what I know about abusers is abusers don't have a sense of self. They need somebody to mirror off of. And their image matters
profusely.
It's what they stand on is their image. It's everything to them.
Yep.
So when they don't have any internal sense of who they are, they need to find someone that can provide that for them. So they look for women and they target women who are highly intelligent, capable, loving, compassionate, empathetic, loyal, have fidelity, are critical thinkers, usually are very, very well established in their fields, or they are very high achieving. And they are women who will have the capability and the endurance and the perseverance and have the desire to have a relationship work and be the one to do whatever they need to do to make the relationship work. And that is why they choose us, because they know that we are a beautiful image. We reflect well to the world off of them. And what happens is they start taking all of our beautiful character qualities and imitating them. They don't own them. They don't possess them. They just start imitating them. And that's why when you go out into to a party, or you're in a public place where you know a lot of people, and your spouse says some passive aggressive joke about you that everybody else goes, oh, that was really funny. But you know that joke that they said was meant to make you look less than them.
Right.
And it was specifically targeted at you to make you dysregulated. And that's what happens a lot when you don't know what's going on. You go out, and that's how they end up making you look dysregulated and crazy, because their abuse and their comments are so nuanced and specific to the individual that they're abusing, that everybody else around them just thinks that, I don't understand why you got so upset about that. It wasn't a big deal.
Well, that's the game, right? That's like, what they do is they wind you up, make you respond, and then go, see, you're crazy. You're crazy. See, every woman is crazy. And one of the things that I think that I noticed, one of the first things I noticed, which I didn't quite understand, was why he was so insecure. Like, I was going, so he's insecure, and he was using, and actually admitted under oath when he was being deposed, was that I had the friendships, I had the connections, I had the personality where people, and he didn't have that. So he was wanting that and wanted to have that connection. And like you said, mirror them. So, I mean, I think when we're in those abusive relationships, it's once we start seeing it, like you mentioned earlier, once you see it, you can't unsee it. But in order to connect the dots, you got to go, oh yeah, I could relate to that. Oh, that's happened. And you can start seeing the pattern of it. What would you say it would be like? What's one of the first things that you do with people that you work with to helping them kind of connect those dots and then make a plan to whether they're going to choose to stay or whether they choose to leave that relationship?
Well, there are a few steps. The first step is I need to make sure that my client's safe. If
Right.
you're with an abuser, I need to know that you're safe. And if you're not safe, we need to create a safety plan.
Right.
That is the first thing. And then we moved into stability. And what stability looks like is I have a signature program that I walk all of my clients through. It's a 12-week program.
Mhm.
But part of that program is to have an individual start journaling what actually is happening.
Mhm.
It is to observe only. It is
Mhm.
not to share anything that they're learning with their spouse.
Mhm.
It's very dangerous to share anything with your spouse,
Yep.
when you're with an abuser, because they will not change. They will just take everything that you tell them, and then they will turn it on you, and they will take their abuse deeper and have it be more coercive and insidious and covert. So that is one of the first things I do with my clients is I have them get a beautiful journal. And when something happens or they have a memory of something, I have them voice dictate it because I'm not a journaler. I
Right.
get it. Some people love to journal. I want you to journal what happened. I don't want you to pay attention to punctuation, I just want you to get it out.
Yeah.
Don't care. Once you've done that, I have them do a body check.
Mm.
Where are you feeling it?
Mhm.
Because we are so disconnected. Our brain and our body and
Right.
our spirit and our intuition are so disconnected that we have no idea that we are actually suffering physically from the emotional and psychological abuse. So
Mm.
I like to get them to start being in touch with their bodies. And then I have them write down their feelings and their needs concerning what 3 feelings does this make you feel? And
Mhm.
really, what 3 needs did it not provide for you?
Mm.
And what in doing that, it's a it actually serves 3 purposes. 1, because most of us are the glass or half full girls.
Right.
We're very good. Our brains are very good at deleting, distorting, and delusioning.
Mm.
And so by the time the next episode happens, we've already processed the last one and we've kind of ourselves brushed it under the rug.
Mhm.
Right? So I have you write it down so that you can start seeing the pattern of behavior.
Right.
Because until you start seeing the pattern of behavior, and you cannot start living in the reality of your circumstances. And
Mhm.
unless you start living in the truth of the reality of your circumstances, you're stuck. You're
Right.
stuck emotionally, psychologically, spiritually.
Do you recommend that I mean, obviously that I know for me, when I was going through that same thing and journaling, I had to put my journal somewhere that was really safe.
Oh, heck yes.
Yes.
Oh, yes. Oh
Just
my
want to
God.
make sure I mentioned that.
Oh, let's just go with that. There's nothing
Yeah.
that you need to have protected and safe should be anywhere in any common area, but just not in any common
Right.
area. You really need to be very particular about where you are hiding
Yeah.
your journal, where you're hiding. If you're stashing cash, I advise my client, I want you to start stashing cash. I want you to start saving gift cards. When you go to Target, if your budget's this much, I want you to say how much is reasonable that it won't be flagged that you
Mm.
take a gift card out for that amount.
Which I thought was fabulous idea,
Mhm.
because it is true. And this is the thing I think I find women too is that we don't feel like we are equally, at sometimes we're not equally have rights to the money that's coming in, and you do. And so it's hard, especially if you're someone that doesn't have the access to the money. I thought that was a brilliant way of doing it, because we do need to have money, especially when things go sideways. They oftentimes get cut off, and then you have nothing, and it
Mhm.
will take a very long time to get access to that again.
Well,
So I thought that was a great idea.
controlling the finances
Yeah.
is one of the most common ways
Yeah.
coercive control is used in a relationship. If you have use of the car and your spouse tells you that you both own it, go look at the title of the car. Because my guess is you might both be on that title, but your spouse has signed themselves as the lien holder.
Right.
So if you ever really wanted to do something with that car that you own, you could never do anything with that automobile unless he actually gave you authorization and allowed you to do so. That is not freedom with your finances.
No, and it is definitely something that they do.
And it is something that they
Yeah.
do. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
If you have, I tell all my ladies, I want you to go on Credit Karma. I need you to start building your own credit, because most of the times abusers are very offended by the fact that you believe that you need to have a credit card in your name, and they will shame you and make you feel guilty to the point and bad enough that you don't trust them to protect you and provide for you. And it prevents you from actually providing for your own financial freedom. Because what most women don't understand is you might have credit cards to use, but if that credit card was taken out by your husband and he's made you an authorized user, that's not your credit.
No.
It's his credit.
Mm-hmm.
And the minute things go sideways, all he has to do is unauthorize you. And then you have no access to credit.
Yep.
And
yeah.
so,
And I don't think people really, I mean, I had a guy on that was he's a lawyer that deals with credit. And man, what a fascinating podcast, because I was like, well, I didn't even think about the fact that you really should check your credit immediately. If you think of doing any kind of separation or wherever you're going with the relationship, check your credit and make sure that your credit, lock it down and get things off and, that kind of thing, so that and you have all the information. But it is very, very, very common if they're in a relationship, if you find yourself in a relationship that, like I did my second marriage, I had no access to anything. And everything was, my first one, I had access to everything.
You don't have access to a bank account. You have access to a credit card,
right?
That
got cut off.
That is an allowance.
Yeah.
That you get to spend every month.
Yeah.
And you might get money into a separate account or a joint account that you get to pay the bills for.
Right.
And your spouse will tell everybody that you manage the money. No, I don't manage the money. I pay the bills.
Right.
I have no idea what's in the SEP IRA, the retirement account, the stocks, the bonds. I don't even have any idea of actually really how much is owed on that house. And is there a second mortgage on it? And what most women don't understand is that we never want to let that mask of recognition of we are realizing what we are up against. We never want to let that fall to our abuser, because the minute the abuser realizes that that mask for us has fallen, they will immediately start moving money.
Yep.
Regardless of whether, it doesn't matter where you are in your relationship. The minute you start questioning, the minute you start getting some grounding, the minute we start being able to see the pattern of behavior, and you're able to say, oh, I see you shooting that arrow at me, I'm just going to sidestep. And I'm going to be right back on track. And the minute they see that they can't distract you, they can't divert you, they can't get you off of the topic that you brought to them, that is the actual issue within the marriage, you need to know that they are already starting to move things to deny you your fiduciary responsibility that they have to you within the marriage. And unfortunately, once that money is gone, if it is before you have filed for divorce, it's in most states, it's considered community property, or that it benefited the community. And unless you are able to produce receipts, credit cards, reports that state that that money was actually a dissipation of your marital funds, that he was spending it on massage parlors, an affair partner,
Mhm.
porn, taking himself on expensive vacations to go hook up or meet with people, you will never be able to recover that money.
Yeah, and people don't realize that, and that's actually where subpoenas come in place, right? So when you're
Yes,
going through a divorce,
absolutely.
of course, you can't do a subpoena. I'm not a lawyer; I can't give you legal advice, but subpoenas typically you can't do a subpoena unless you're actually in an active divorce case and you have your
True.
divorce paperwork, into the court, and you've got that active thing.
Mhm.
However, it is important when those things happen, whether it's before or after you've filed. So again, go get that legal advice that way to knowing what to do. But it's, what the thing that I think what you're really saying is just wake up and start seeing everything and start taking responsibility for yourself and protecting yourself against
Yeah,
the other person. But I also for me personally, I had to, um, even know once I saw it, I had to play the game. Does that make sense?
absolutely.
Yeah,
You
I
do,
had to
and
play
you
the
do have to
game.
play the game, Becky. I tell all of my clients
Yeah,
especially when they come to me before they filed for divorce, because
yeah.
I have a 6-month signature program that I walk through the entire
Mhm,
divorce process with my clients.
mhm.
But I have clients that I also do have a signature program that I walk them through the coercive control, and we do the healing and the grounding and the
Mhm.
empowerment. At the end of that 12 weeks, they're restoring their voice, they regain their identity. And
Yeah,
in that, I let them know, until you actually serve your partner with papers, if that's what you're going to choose to do, you are to gather information. You are to gather as many documents as you can, all financial documents, documents that you could only go online and access because you're a couple. You're to
mhm.
go on and you're to access those, and you are to be status quo. Your partner is not to know anything that you're planning or doing until you're ready to pull the trigger. And
Yeah.
that's where, and a lot of women, especially faith-filled women, they have a big issue with them being a woman of integrity and honesty. And I have to tell them,
I get it, man. I get it. You tell them
right,
what.
that you did not put yourself in this position.
Right,
If
right.
your spouse was honorable and had integrity, and they were upholding their fiduciary responsibility to you as their spouse, you wouldn't have to do any of this. You are doing this because you've been put in a place where you need to provide protection for yourself. And the
Mhm.
only way that you're able to provide protection for yourself and have the knowledge to make informed decisions is to have as much information as possible. Information is power.
Yep.
Without the information, without the documentation, without knowing where you actually stand, you cannot make an informed decision. And that's what I'm
Mhm.
seeing in the court system now, is you have these attorneys, these divorce attorneys that are actually representing the husband, that they're trying to push mediation or a settlement offer before they've even submitted their discovery.
I know. Well, that's so
Oh, wow.
that's the whole thing is I always tell people, I'm like, look, if they're trying to rush it without you having all the information, that's a major, major red flag. So,
Exactly.
and I mean, I was pushed to mediation before I had all the information. I said, what in the world are we mediating? Because I don't have the information in front of me to make an informed decision. So I use subpoenas. That's how I won my case. Like I was like,
Mhm.
I'm not going to keep asking and asking and asking, going back to court. I'm just going to go get the information I need so that I have it in front of me. So then I can say, hey, this is what I would settle for and what I didn't. And so you're right. That's exactly what's happening is like, let's get this over with. Let's just get that. And women are like, wait a minute, I don't know what's going
Mhm.
on.
And
So
they
yeah.
don't, and on top of that, they don't know what's going on. And most of the time, 99% of the time, they have been financially stripped.
I know. Absolutely.
So their concern is, I don't even know how I'm going to pay for an attorney.
Right.
So how am I going to fight this? How am I going to get into this when I'm with someone who now is death, destruction, and scorched earth? Well, we do that with strategy.
Exactly.
Because I know where to fight
100%.
that. It's strategy, right?
Yep.
And I help them find their attorney. I help them interview their attorneys. And basically this is my non-negotiable with an attorney. I want to know, when you send out those discovery papers, if it is a 30-day turnaround time, what are you going to do when opposing counsel sends you an email at 11 o'clock at night before they're due and says, oh, gee, we need a 10-day extension? What's your answer? And the only answer I want there to be is, I'm so sorry, that's unacceptable. We will be going to court tomorrow, and now we're going to make a motion to compel for you to produce those. And I'm going to ask for sanction of fees because you've wasted my client's time and you're costing her money by me having to show up and do this on her behalf. That is the only answer I want. And after the first round of discovery comes and they have not submitted all of the discovery you've requested, I want to know that attorney is going to go straight to subpoenas.
Yep.
Don't waste our time.
Yeah. And unfortunately, with me having a subpoena company, unfortunately, there's a lot of attorneys that don't use subpoenas. And I'm thinking the reason why I can tell you why.
Because I'm like, if they're not voluntarily giving my client the information,
I know.
Why are you opposed to subpoenaing them? They're not coming to the table.
I absolutely love subpoenas, but this is what I've learned about this industry. And first of all, and this is not a dig towards attorneys or paralegals, but they have a lot on their plate. Right? They have a lot of deadlines. They have a lot of things to worry about, and subpoenas can be quite difficult. That's why I always say to them, look, just because you can do them doesn't mean you should. You need to get somebody that's an expert, that this is all we do. Like that's what my company does, is only subpoenas. That's all we do. I had a conversation with a big attorney yesterday, and they're like, yeah, we know how to do it. And I said, well, let me tell you, the statistics are not good of subpoenas going through and actually they get rejected so much. I said, so you can think that you know what that jurisdiction is going to do, but you've got to be willing to do the research. So just because you can do them doesn't necessarily mean that you should, because it does take a lot of very detailed work to make sure that those go through. And when they work with me, it's 100% compliant, means it gets accepted. So it's like, let's just go do it the right way the first time. And I've just realized that a lot of the attorneys don't have time to learn the different jurisdictions. But
not even that, Becky. It's like, let's just talk about getting PayPal or Venmo or eBay or crypto. Let's talk about them being willing to submit all of the transactions per subpoena. If it's not worded correctly, they just don't respond.
Well,
and
I know
a lot of those spouses are hiding. That's where they're hiding a lot of their money.
Yep. And I actually have, I have 2 different clients right now doing those exact ones. So I mean, they need that information. So I always say, stop asking for permission and just go get what you need, so that you can get the information so you can settle for a fair and equitable division. Because just because they're trying to hide it doesn't mean it's hidden. And we live in a very digital world. So I love that you're a subpoena lover.
I am. And when I get to a place in the process with my client where it's gone on for such a period of time that she knows that that he's hiding assets, and there's just how much longer are we going to play the game?
Ping pong.
I literally just let them know. I go, listen, do you have enough information at this point in time to make an informed decision? And if you do, let's move forward and create your wish list and what you would like in a settlement for you to present to your attorney. Because this is the fact. Most states in the United States, I work internationally, but most states, what happens if a spouse hides assets and fails to produce those assets to the court and to you, it is a violation of their fiduciary responsibility. if the dissolution goes through and you have a final judgment and you find that they have hidden assets, you take them right back to court when you find that out, and you are awarded 100% of that asset. That's the law. So
well, that's the way it's supposed to be.
that
I
is,
should say,
that's true. That's true.
Yeah.
That's why I said it's the law.
Yeah.
We have a legal system,
Exactly.
not a justice system.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. And people don't even know that they can reopen their court case. It is a lot harder. I do have a girlfriend of mine that did that and lost a lot of money doing it, and for various reasons. However, I think that is an option that people need to know. There's just so much about our legal system. It's a game. It is a game. It's literally a game. And I love Dr. Lisa, I'm going to say that I love that you are so passionate about helping people in this space. And I know you've got a QR code where people can get a hold of you. What is the QR code you said it's a consult?
Yeah, it's a scheduled discovery call, a complimentary discovery call.
Okay, awesome. And that is so important. So if you're like going through a divorce, and I know I take calls all the time and as well, because when people are in that desperate thing, you're like, okay, what's the next step? And definitely reach out to her. There's also your website. It's shadow@soul.com.
Mm-hmm.
And Lisa, so honestly, I need to have you on again. We need to like talk about a lot more of the things. Like
I would love to come back. As you can see, I get very passionate. The Sicilian and Scottish in me just comes right out. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Well, and you know what? You can tell that you've had a lot of experience. You obviously know a lot about the legal system. And again, we're not lawyers. We're not legal professionals. We can't give legal advice. When I talk to people, I just talk to them about my experience and things like that. But yeah, that's why I always, talk about the 100 divorce terms. Cause it's like, if you don't understand the game, if you don't understand the language, then you're 10 times further behind the game, the 8-ball, so at least.
And there are things that we do. There are things that I implement with my clients in their cases that I would never share on a podcast.
Yeah.
Because right. I don't want the abuser to actually know the strategy.
Yeah. Right? Amen, honey.
I mean, and that is the truth. That's just how we roll, right?
Yeah.
But the truth is, I have many women that they come to me, they don't know whether they're going to stay or they're going to go. So although I am a certified divorce coach and I do understand the legal system well and help them to walk through that, because my passion is for full restoration, not just healing.
Yeah.
And so that full restoration, that depends on what you want. The only person that ever has the right or the privilege to make a decision for you is you.
Yeah.
And in your marriage or your relationship, if you choose to stay, we work together to develop tools on how to stay well.
Right.
And
if you stay strong, I mean, that's
exactly.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's kind of my last question for you is what does it mean to you? What does divorcing strong mean to you?
Divorcing strong to me means when you enter into the arena, and it is an arena, don't be fooled. It's war. I tell my clients, if you think that you've been living in hell for 10, 20, 30, 40 years, when you file for divorce, you're sitting in the middle of a fire. You're just sitting in the middle of the fire. So for me, for you to divorce strong, that means that when we enter into that process, you have done as much healing as you possibly are able to do within the relationship. You have developed skills and tools to ground yourself and make choices from a regulated nervous system that allows you to be empowered. You're at a place where you see the pattern clearly and you are not reactive. And I've taught you tools to regulate your nervous system when you're sitting in the middle of the fire, in court, at trial, or in mediation. And the goal for all of it is for you to be able to get out well and start over well. So when we talk about full restoration, that means emotionally, psychologically, spiritually, and physically. And that's what we work on. When you leave your marriage and you are on the other side, there is a beautiful world. And I have not had one client ever say to me, I wish I had stayed, because even your worst day after you've left an abuser is better than the best day you ever spent with them.
Yeah. I thank you so much for that, because I love, love, love the work that you're doing, because it really is, can we come out of divorce stronger? Can we let this experience allow us this, exercise that muscle so that we come on the other side, come out of it and start this new chapter, a whole new person, in the sense that we are standing up for ourselves. We know where our boundaries are. We know how we want people to treat us, and be able to move with peace. Right. And I always say that too. It's like, there is this beautiful life after, being in a toxic relationship, and being, and giving people that hope that there really is. And I love that you are all about this work, and believe me, I'll be sending people to you as well.
Yeah. And Becky, the truth, I don't want women to leave with a Pollyanna view, because let's be honest, there are rough days.
Yep.
There are days after you divorce that you think might break you also. But the difference between now and then is that you have acquired so many tools, and you have a community and a tribe of women around you, and you have found those women that are your ride or dies. Because what happens through the divorce is those women that you thought were your ride or dies, they turn out not to be your ride or dies. But as you go through the journey, you do find those ride or dies. Will your community be a lot smaller? Will your tribe be a lot smaller? Absolutely. And that's because we don't just move forward in this world with trusting and trustworthy hearts. We are trusting and trustworthy, but we verify.
Right.
And as faith-filled women, many of us don't even understand that divorce is allowed. I have a lot of my women come to me and say, well, I need to figure out how to make this work because God hates divorce. And I have to say to them, okay, I hear you, but let's open up to Malachi. And I have them read Malachi. And when we're done reading that verse, I said, so what does God hate? God hates a man who deals treacherously with the bride of his youth.
Yep.
And therefore, I have created divorce and a decree and a paper that she may walk away with, that says that she's allowed to start over. And not over can she start over, she can marry again. And not only can she marry again, that paper also is a paper that shows that he discarded her and he cannot take her back.
Right.
That she is freedom. So when my women come to me and they are very confused about what God says about divorce, that is what God says about divorce.
Yeah, I agree.
There are many places in scripture that absolutely describe divorce being provided for us. There are provision for divorce was provided for us to be able to start over, because we are created in God's image. And if we're created in God's image and we are beloved, we are equal. We are equal in likeness. We are equal in partnership. And God never created us to be abused, demeaned, denigrated. That is not why he created us. he created us for such a time as this, because we have work to do, only that we can do.
Yeah, I truly believe women can change the world. And I think that sometimes, and it's, if we can free ourselves of that. And I do also want to say that there are men that are abused as well. It's not that there's
there are, yes.
You know, and although we're just speaking about the women's side of it right now, but I think that any abuse is not okay. Any form of coercion or control or dominance or any of that kind of stuff is not okay, and in no form of it. And I love that you brought in that God does not condone it either, and it's okay. It's okay. That, because I had to get through that as well and realize that there's nothing wrong with me, because I'm taking care of myself. And that's what he would want me to do. So thank you so much, Lisa. I love that this was a longer show, but I felt like it needed to go longer because it was really important information. It's something I'm passionate about, and I can obviously see that you're passionate about it. And there's got to be somebody out there that needed to hear the things that we talked about today, because I just know that when we start connecting the dots, we can really start seeing the real true story and get out of denial and into power.
Absolutely.
So, yeah. So thank you so much, Lisa. And honestly, if you want to reach out to Lisa, make sure you go on the QR code, get a time on her calendar, or go to her website at shadowandsoul.com. I love that. I love it. So thank you. And we'll have to talk later about having you on another one.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you.
All right. Hold on just 1 second. Hang on there. Oh my gosh. What an incredible, seriously, I could talk about this for a very long time, because it is something that I'm passionate about as well, is just because of the, abuse comes from a lot of different forms. I've experienced it in both of my marriages, and now I'm happily married to the love of my life now. And I always tell people that it is a beautiful thing to be in a relationship that's healthy, that's kind, that's loving, that's reassuring and validating, all of those kind of things. Because it really does. This is the kind of relationship that we should all be having. And it's like every day I kind of pinch myself and go, what? Like, am I really experiencing this? And it is a beautiful thing. But I'm doing this Divorcing Strong because I know the battle that people go through. I totally understand. I thank the family members and the friends that refer people to me and my network. If I'm not somebody that can help you, because I'm not doing divorce coaching anymore, but I definitely have a lot of people in my network that I refer out. So you can reach out anytime for help, and obviously reach out to Lisa, get on her schedule, and see if she can help you through that thing. So thank you again for joining another episode of Divorcing Strong, and we will see you next time. Thanks for listening to the Divorcing Strong podcast. This episode is sponsored by Only Subpoenas, where we make subpoenas simple, powerful, and 100% compliant. If you're having a hard time getting the information you need to settle for a fair and equitable divorce, let us help you. Whether you're an attorney or you're navigating divorce on your own, subpoenas can uncover the truth, secure the evidence you need, and level the playing field. To see how we can help, book an appointment by visiting our website at onlysubpoenas.com.